And I'll even, during this time, I'll watch some of the classics too. Like I'll watch Frosty the Snowman. I'll watch Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Now, here's what I want you to know about Rudolph. Depending on how long it's been since you've watched that movie, you're not remembering how weird the movie actually is. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the 1964 classic, we have it up here because it's Rudolph, because it's a big deal. But Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, as far as an actual movie, it is so weird. Like it has unexplained, the plot makes no sense. The story arcs make no sense. Like, why is the Abominable Snowman suddenly a good guy at the end? Like, it makes no sense. Why is the flying lion the king of the Isle of Misfit Toys? There's continuity errors to it. Like, I know, Matt, it's a kid's movie. You're ripping it apart. It's weird. It's a terrible movie. The song is great, but the actual movie, somebody will be talking and the claymation mouth isn't moving, and it goes to another shot and suddenly an elf just appears out of nowhere. It's where was he before? Now he's just in the choir. It's just a completely weird movie. Santa is skinny and he's mean. At the very beginning of the movie, he's skinny, he's mean. When he sees Rudolph, he's like, well, I hope he grows out of it or he's going to be a weirdo all his life. He's not supportive at all. He's mean to Mrs. Claus. The elves are so excited to sing him a song. He literally pulls out a pocket watch and goes, let's make this quick. And the elves sing their song. They're all happy. They get done. And he literally, at the end of the song, goes, it needs some work. Got to go. And that's how he leaves it. But the weirdest thing about the movie is that even for 1964, I feel like there's some moments in it that are kind of weird. For example, Rudolph's dad is a sexist. He's misogynistic, and so just trust me on this. Just check this out.
Now, you can bet old Donner felt pretty bad about the way he had treated Rudolph, and he knew that the only thing to do was to go out and look for his little buck. Mrs. Donner wanted to go along, naturally, but Donner said, no, this is man's work.
With a little tear at the end. That's domestic, reindeer. That's somebody that. How in the world, even for 1964, I feel like it's behind the times. No, this is man's work. It is a weird movie. And so thinking about looking back over the story, what we actually find in the gospel when we read the birth of Jesus, I feel like it's a lot like Rudolph, where it's way cleaner in our heads than what we remember. It's way more neatly bound up, because it's oh yeah, no, swaddling cloths and in a manger and all the friendly farm animals, and the gifts come. And so we had this nativity story, but we forget that these were real people with real problems, and the story doesn't shy away at all from how messed up and how problematic their lives were at the time. So look at this. This is I think the first one is Matthew 1. Yes, thank you. And here's what happens. And so now the birth of Jesus Christ took place in this way. When his mother Mary had been betrothed to Joseph, before they came together, she was found to be with child from the Holy Spirit. If I wanted to say something outlandish just for a laugh, I would say it wasn't Joseph. The Holy Spirit knocked up Mary. But I won't say that. That's just weird. And so we're here in the betrothing. What this day and age is for this Jewish custom, betrothment's more than an engagement. Betrothment is you are already legally bound in marriage, but it's not a done deal. You have all the perks of a legally binding marriage without any of the benefits. So it's a great thing. It's a great system, right? And so they're betrothed, and suddenly, I'm pregnant, and her husband Joseph, being a just man and unwilling to put her to shame, resolved to divorce her quietly. And so what we know as the virgin birth is actually the verge of divorce for this couple. Because he is wrestling with this, he's dealing with this issue, and even though it's an absolute miracle of God that he comes to the same conclusion, that he realizes that this is a God thing, that Mary has this immaculate conception, it doesn't mean that the society's changed. It doesn't mean that their family accepted that this was the reality. It meant alienation for them, and I'll show you this. Look at Luke chapter 2. And so it says, and all went to be registered. This is that government-mandated census, each to his own town. And Joseph also went up from Galilee, from the town of Nazareth, to Judea, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be registered with Mary, his betrothed, who was with child. And it says, and while they were there, the time came for her to give birth. And what we always forget about this story is we don't know how long this while they were there was. It could have been hours. It could have been like how we have in the story where it's like they get there, they don't have a room in the inn, and suddenly, oh no, I got to deliver this baby. But this while is ambiguous. It could have been hours, it could have been days, it could have been weeks. And if the whole family of Joseph, if the whole tribe of Joseph is coming in to Bethlehem, and they are having to resolve to an inn, and they can't find room in the inn, what does that tell you about how Joseph's family is treating Mary and Joseph at this time? Well, I'm postulating that they're dealing with this whole thing of this immaculate conception, the fact that they knew Joseph was about to divorce Mary, that they had these problems, that they were on the verge of divorce, and now they're saying, okay, yeah, the Holy Spirit did this? Yeah, right, Mary. And so this whole thing, not only is it a physically toiling thing for a pregnant woman to travel, and when it says to go up, they're actually going up the mount to Jerusalem, and then once they get to Jerusalem, that crowded city, they're going south into Bethlehem. Yeah, it was physically toiling, and trust me, I had to travel and pack up bags and move my wife when she was pregnant in her first trimester. I would say, all right, pack this box and go in here, and I'm going to start packing this box, and I would come back 5 minutes later, and she was asleep, like didn't pack a thing. Like traveling when you're pregnant is tough, and so I know that part, then we know that like it was tough, but think about the alienation that they're facing from family, from society. And so the manger thing is more than just like a cute story. It is a real emotional and physical toil. It is a real-life problem. And so they are going through this, and she gave birth to her firstborn son, wrapped him in swaddling cloths, and laid him in a manger because there was no place for them in the inn. Now, we have the other side of the story. We know that this is prophetic. We know that God's promises were delivered through Jesus. But think about this. Their problems were wrapped up in God's prophecy. What would be a problem for me and you? What would be our everyday life of just the mess and the chaos of trying to figure out life? And do I stay with her? Do I leave her? We got to go to the census thing. Nobody wants to. My brother can't take me. My uncle can't take me. I'm alienated from my family because of this, and I'm trying to follow God, and I don't know how to follow. I just feel so like separated from everybody. They're going through this, and we know that it's exactly what God has promised. That we are getting the hope of this world. That we're getting Jesus to come in and be our salvation and be our light and be our hope. But it's coming. God's promises are coming through their problems. Think about that. Jesus represents, if we'll remember the Christmas story, it represents hope in the chaos. Because Emmanuel, God with us, so that word that we get for Jesus' birth, when it says Emmanuel, this is that promise that God reaches down and he gets in the mess of our lives. He gets right into our situation. He says, you know what? It's not when you get your life right. It's not when everything is perfect. It's not when it's a clean, nice story. Your testimony is going to be messy. Your story is going to be messy. It's going to be like, yeah, I got saved here, and then I dealt with this. And it's like, wait, I thought you got saved, and then you said you dealt with this sin issue. It's a messy testimony, but the best thing you got going for you is that you have the promise of Emmanuel. You have the promise that God walks with you. And so it's that God with us that is the hope of the Christmas story. Think about this. This is it's not on the screen, but think about how these prophecies were being filled. Like the virgin divorce for the virgin birth, when it goes all the way back to Isaiah, and here's what it says. It says, therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. The virgin will be with child and will give birth to a son. We'll call him Emmanuel. Even the terrible traveling that you have to do pregnant and alienated from family, alienated from society. It's a promise from Micah 5:2 that says, but you, Bethlehem, though you are small, among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be ruler over Israel. It's the promises. It's living in the mess and not always seeing God's big picture. Mary and Joseph had a small snippet of what God was up to, and we on this side of heaven, we always have to work in the blurry picture. We don't always get to see what God's up to. We don't always get to see the promises that are being fulfilled through our problems, through our mess, through our imperfections, but God is at work. And so why do you think this Jesus story isn't cleaned up? If God is sending a fully God, fully man son to be the king of this, to be the salvation, to be the king of kings, why wouldn't he clean it up and make it just like a perfect story? I think he's sending a message. You go all the way to Matthew 1 and look at the genealogy of Jesus. He doesn't shy away from having an odd family tree. He puts people in the genealogy. He puts names in there of prostitutes, of people that were sexually immoral, of the outsiders that weren't even part of the nation of Israel. He puts all this stuff in Jesus' lineage. The point that he's making is that he's trying to show us that Jesus identifies with us. He gets it. That's why Hebrews says he's not without sympathy. He knows what it's like to struggle. He knows what it's like to be human. He knows what it's like to be on this constant verge of like, I just don't know if I have what it takes. I don't know if I can keep walking this path. I just feel like a failure. I feel this insecurity. Jesus identifies with you because his story is riddled with problems. His birth isn't perfect, and neither was the people and the situation around him. And I think God's just trying to make something very, very clear to us. God always works his perfect plan through imperfect people and painful situations. That's what he does. So my challenge for you is to embrace Jesus in your mess. Don't wait for this Christmas season to be perfect, where your family's getting along and everything's perfect and everything's working out, because you won't embrace Jesus. You won't have that opportunity. Don't try to clean your life up and get it right before you come to Jesus. Embrace Jesus with us. Remember this, Emmanuel. God, be with me. God, I need you. I'm so thankful that I don't have to walk through this mess by myself, this tension that I'm trying to figure out, this problem that I'm trying to solve. Thank you that you are the God who walks with me, that understands the imperfect, that works a perfect plan, that is the hope in the chaos. So remember that, and I challenge you with that. God with us, let him walk with you. Can I pray for you?